which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the minutes reflect that 6 of our 7 members are here. We have one who is vacationing in Tennessee with grandkids. Okay. Everybody have a chance to read the revised minutes that were done today? They were on your desk when you came in here. The only change was that one of the items that we covered did not have the roll call vote on it. That happened to be the one you abstained on. No, there's no corrections or additions. I would entertain a motion to approve them as submitted.
I move to approve the minutes from the meeting of June 14th with corrections.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. We'll pass this down to Barry. You don't need to sign. Okay. There is no old business. Under new business, first item is a public hearing, White Lick Commercial Subdivision Plat Amendment. Harold Gibson, Gibson Land Surveying.
Good evening. My name is Bill Niemeyer, and I am obviously not Harold Gibson. Harold would love to be here this evening, although he is currently traveling to Colorado to watch his son pitch in the All-Star game. So we certainly would not expect Harold to be here and miss that once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. I am the attorney for Tharp Investments, and we are the owner of the property that is the subject of this request. And if I may, I'd like to hand out 3 handouts that I think will greatly explain what our request is about. Thank you. I've handed out. The first page is a survey of the property, and as you can see, the property lines are shown in red. In the bottom right-hand corner of this exhibit shows this new Starbucks building, and if you look to the south of there, you can see that there's a row of parking spaces and the dumpster enclosure that are outside the property line of the Starbucks parcel. To the west of that parcel, there is another parcel that has a building, a multi-tenant building, exact same situation. To the south of that property line, there's one row of parking, and the dumpster enclosure is actually included on the property to the south. That's an easy problem to solve when you own the property to the south, which Tharp Investments does. So the first diagram just shows where the current property lines are. The second diagram, I've colored in green the area that we are requesting to add to the Starbucks parcel, and in orange, the area is shown to be added to the parcel with the multi-tenant building. Once the parcels are reconfigured as shown, which then the last page is the replat that Harold Gibson prepared for us, and it realigns the property lines consistent with the second page. What it does, it simply gets all of the assets for a particular business located onto the property so that we don't have an issue, in the future if we sell the Starbucks building, we would be selling it currently without one row of parking or the dumpster enclosure. So what we are requesting through the replat or the plat amendment is to simply modify the internal property lines within the plat to be consistent with the use. And that's our request. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And I hope that everything's this easy this evening.
How did you happen to catch that it was off the property?
The survey.
Or
when we-
resurveyed it?
Absolutely. Once
Okay.
the Starbucks was built, they requested an as-built survey, which, very prudent. And when we looked at it, we actually reached out to Starbucks and said, we see a problem, needs to be fixed. While we're fixing it, we noticed the exact same problem next door. No reason to come back twice, fix it once. And like I said, the easiest scenario of all is that we are also the owner of all of the property to the south, so we didn't have to go to a neighbor and explain why we're encroaching on their property. If you're going to encroach on your own property.
I do have a question just on the replat. It says replat of Lot 3 and Lot 4. So is Lot 4 the parcel to the south?
Yes,
And so you have 3A and 3B, is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay. So the replat's Lot 3A, 3B, and Lot 4.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, within the original plat, there were lots 1 and 2, but they are not being amended or touched at all. And in speaking with Lisa, we identified that if we included them, lots 1 and 2 in the replat, it might be confusing because people might be looking, well, what was changed there?
Okay.
It is a replat of 3 and 4, though. Okay, but by doing this, they're creating a 3A and a 3B.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay. So this does require approval by us.
Yes, and it is a public hearing.
Okay. Well, looks like you guys did all the legwork and incurred all the expense. All we need to do is prove it.
Sure. That's what we would request, although, I don't know if there's anybody here that would like to talk on the matter, but we
Well, it is a
certainly
public hearing, I guess.
might as well ask.
Yeah. Noticed that when I looked down. Anybody out there have anything they want to say about this? Just kind of cleaning up a mistake. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing portion. Any of you gentlemen, Bill, have any questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve replats Lot 3 and 4 of White Lick Creek Commercial Subdivision.
Okay, we have a motion to approve it. Do I hear a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Barry, roll call, please.
Mr. Gerald.
Aye.
Mr. Harvey.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Ms. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Van Leer.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
Okay. Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Item B, public hearing. Lennar Homes of Indiana, a rezone.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Tony Bagato from Lennar Homes, and with me is Keith Lash. Tonight, we're presenting a new proposed community from Lennar called Balmora. I know you received a lot of new documents today, but I want you to know that everything still from the original submittal is substantially similar. What you received were changes we had based on a neighborhood meeting last week, as well as the comments we received Thursday evening from staff. So we'll present this through. I wanted to start off, though, give you a little bit of history about Lennar. Lennar, we're the largest builder in the region, in the Indianapolis market right now. All these areas outside of in the Indy region and within Indy a little bit, we have all these communities that are currently going and being proposed throughout the region. We also have a home for every stage of life, from small ranches to duplexes up to townhomes, and of course, a wide variety of single-family homes, from ranches for empty nesters up to larger homes for families and whatnot in estate lots. So just wanted to present that. Then our second thing about Lennar, what we offer that other builders don't, is called Everything Included Package, or EI is our trademark. So what you'll see with Lennar, there's about $30,000 worth of upgrades. It's no extra cost. Because we put these in our homes, we're able to get a competitive rate from the market and from the suppliers, and that puts us at an advantage, so that when a homeowner buyer comes in, they walk in and see the model, and they know what kind of appliances and everything they're going to get from the beginning. So this will include stainless steel appliances, standard, higher-end countertops, sink fixtures, decorative lighting in some cases, the keyless entry in this regard. So a lot of smart technology with Ring, Alexa add-on, and controlled smart thermometers. We have, again, higher countertops, flooring, wood flooring, higher-end cabinetry, 42 inches, and decorative trim. And so what you see in Lennar is what you get inside, and again, higher quality. So there's nobody having to worry about coming in, picking options, and making it really confusing. So it's really simple and very popular with this branding that we do. So the project tonight is for Balmoral. It's a rezone from agricultural zone property within the county that is going through the annexation process. We are seeking a PUD for residential single family. It's connected to the Kensington development and the continuation of Four Oaks, as we see just kind of a natural continuation of this area on the east side of town. It's off of Country Road 300 and 100 to the north. The proposal is for 323 home sites on 141 acres, and that comes out to about 2.29 units per acre. So again, this is the same number of units we had before the changes you received today. There is a little bit of a different configuration around this area to address our comments that I'll get into from the residents. And then we're showing about 46.4 open space. That is because one of the best parts of this site is the natural amenities, the wooded area, the creeks, that we're trying to maintain a cluster development and really preserve that natural environment and work within that and keep as much of the trees as possible within this plan and mitigate all that through minimal construction. From the comprehensive plan, this is just outside of the future expansion area, but a natural continuation of that expansion area from my review. It's shown as suburban residential, which is medium density in the county land use. So the acres of 2.29 is within that medium range of the land use county plan. And then again, your comp plan talks about providing attractive, high-quality homes, which we believe we're bringing into the market, and a continuation of what we've done in Four Oaks when we took that over, as well as Kensington that's under construction today. So again, as I talked about, we're trying to maintain a constant plan that really works around the environment. So we're preserving the wooded area on the property for these parcels and maintaining access through there as minimal as possible, disturbance through there to, again, create the natural setting we want with this cluster development. The proposed PUD has two areas, is Area A and Area B. So Area A makes up 83.21 acres, and this is shown in the darker green lots. There are 235 home sites here, and there is a pool area that was on the previous concept plan. It was in black and really hard to see, so I know staff mentioned about wanting a pool area. We did relocate it with some of our changes, and we're making sure we're showing it that it's there. And in this portion of Area A, we have 26.5 acres of common area open space. This area will, again, from what we see, attractive, high-quality homes. This is what our venture product. So these are 1,600 to 3,000 range of homes. These pictures were provided in your packets just to show you what a variation of the streetscape looks like. It was not intended to necessarily portray the material, because I know there was a comment about some of these might have vinyl. The PUD that will present the commitments, there is no vinyl in this, and the PUD ordinance is the governing document if this is approved, so there shouldn't be any concerns there. Again, these were just provided to show the variation in architectural styles, coloring, material, and in the variation in size. Again, some more of our venture product. We do envision that this will be around the $260,000 to $300,000 point price range today. Starting construction in 2003 is when the homes would anticipate on our current timeline. Area B is 57.81 acres, and this is our larger lots, more of the wooded area. So we see this as a higher end, really kind of the keystone of the property, providing lots within this natural environment. It provides for 88 home sites, and this is 39 acres of common area. These are again, we feel attractive, high-quality homes, as the comp plan talks about. This is our cornerstone, so these are slightly larger than our venture. They start off at 1,800 square feet and get up to 3,600 square feet. We see this price range probably around $360,000 to $400,000 when these homes are being built in this area. And again, these were just representing the different styles, color, elevations you see with this product. So the architectural commitments that are within the PUD, as I mentioned a little bit a while ago, there was no vinyl committing to front facades having 25% brick, stone, or masonry wainscot. There'll be roof overhangs of at least 11 inches. And then 2-car garage, and there was a comment about 3-car garage having an offset, and we agreed with staff, so that's one of the changes you'll see in the PUD today. And then we have raised wood decks, a concrete patio, screen, or covered porch on the rear elevations. There was some discussion from staff, as well as I met with a council member about this as well, talked about the rear facade. So we are showing on this exhibit here within the PUD that 25% of the homes facing the rear will have one of these options. It could have four-sided brick wrap wainscot, a screen and porch, a 3-season room, a morning room, and a covered porch. The reason we do 25% is we do want variation, just like you don't want monotony on the street. We want that same thing, anti-monotony on the rear of these homes as well. So we provide this as a good option, and it would apply to these lots shown in red on the concept plan within the PUD. Then there's a series of landscape commitments within the PUD. We have landscape buffers, front yard to be graded and sodded, side yards to be graded and seeded. That probably should say, yeah, side yards graded and seeded. We're committing to shade tree, ornamental trees, foundation plantings, and then a tree conservation area. The tree conservation area and some of the buffer areas that I'll talk about came from the neighborhood meeting specifically. So with the landscape buffer, we have homes that'll back up to external roadways will have a 4 to 6 foot high mound with 1 tree, ornamental tree, 2 shade trees, 2 evergreens, and 5 shrubs per 100 feet. That was a comment by staff. There wasn't necessarily a number per distance, and so that's been added, and we agreed with that comment. The additional buffer was added. We call it buffer number 1 in the PUD, and this is for the adjacent resident here to the west. We were at the neighborhood meeting, and they've been at the home for 15 years, so there was some comments about the views of the lot into their property. To address that concern, we're providing a buffer area here within 1 evergreen for every 40 feet. Then the tree conservation area we've provided in the PUD. Again, this was brought up from some of the discussions with some residents at Four Oaks, specifically off of a cul-de-sac in this area. There was some concerns about the pond, which was closer to the property line, so that's been shifted over to avoid that concern. And then we're showing this in red, a tree conservation area. This is in addition to that we're going to minimize any tree impact in this area as well, because we're not going to put anything within the creeks and in the wooded area except for where we have minor road crossings. So the tree conservation area talks about that any tree that is not damaged, diseased, or dying will remain. Also, the trees may be removed, though, for drainage, utilities, street connection, walking paths, or other infrastructure. And in those scenarios, there would be a tree replacement, or if they're damaged by the developer, by us, we would look at putting new trees within that area. This red line specifically is a 10-foot buffer to avoid all that. And again, we will try to keep more than 10 feet where possible for utilities, but we're specifically protecting that 10-foot line here for these residents.
That pond that was right there, is that the one that the one lady wrote a letter about?
Correct. I believe she came in and submitted a letter after our meeting. It was closer to her property, right on the edge, so there was concern about the children she have being right next to the pond, so we have shifted that. Next slide. Then the other commitments we're providing is HOA maintained common area, which was a comment by staff we did not have in there, so that's been addressed. Pool and pool house, that was provided already in the plan, but we made sure to show that better. Connectivity, there's a comment about perimeter paths being 10 feet wide. We're proposing 8 feet because that's what got approved with Kensington, so 8 feet would line up as a match, but we were willing to put in those paths along the perimeter of the development on both roads. And then there's been some discussion with staff about water services that go beyond our project site. We are committing to work with staff, and if there's an agreement that can be met with a mutual agreement between the town and the developer with some kind of partnership, either for cost sharing or waiver fees or materials sharing, that we would be willing to do that based upon a future agreement. But again, just committing that we're agreeing to work with staff at this time. And next slide, please. There was a traffic study done as part of this proposal. We reviewed the 5 intersections that were studied by A&F. They will all operate and continue to operate at the same levels of service today, or acceptable levels of service. There will be improvements at the entrance that make these entrances operate at acceptable levels of service. The study actually showed that these entrance improvements weren't needed, but the UDO or the zoning code here requires that, so we'll still have XL and decel lanes into this development, but the traffic study even showed it wasn't necessarily needed, but we will provide those according to the standards. And then from the fiscal analysis from the annexation portion, it shows no impact, but what there would be gained over each year of construction after the first year is 6.6 million net assessed value, which comes out to about $58 million of assessed value over the 10-year build-out term of the project. So with that, there was a series of staff comments we wanted to address. We've addressed all of them. The only one that we didn't address that we still would want to propose in our PUD was a change in the side setbacks. We're proposing 6 feet, which is 12 aggregate. There was comment about going to 15. Looking through the zoning code here for Danville, all of the zones except for your estate zone have 6 feet. All the PUDs recently have been either 6 feet, or some of them have been 7, but some down to 5. And then we're not doing vinyl, so that's not as flammable with hardy plank. And we believe, the building code ultimately regulates distance related to fire standards. So we believe that 6 feet with 12 aggregate is sufficient with our hardy plank siding, and it complies again with all the zoning standards other than the estate zone in the town. So in summary, we again feel this is a natural continuation of Four Oaks and Kensington. It preserves the natural environment that we're working around. We're providing attractive, high-quality homes. Providing a landscape buffer and tree preservation for the residents we heard from. Traffic shows no impact. Again, fiscal impact is a net of 6.6 million per year after the first year. And then I put staff support, but I think that was the first item. I didn't see this, reading through, didn't see support necessarily from staff, but we've been working with staff and have addressed every comments and hope to have support. With that, I'm open for any questions or comments.
The sewers are the West Central, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the water is Danville.
Correct.
Okay. Area B, is it one homeowners association for all of it?
Yes, it'll be one homeowners association.
So the pool is available for everybody in
Correct.
that subdivision?
Correct, the entire community. It's separate from Kensington, but it will have its own.
Right.
Will there be any trails or anything through the preserve wooded area?
It's something we're willing to study. There is quite a bit of terrain in some of those areas and drop-off, but if it's possible, we will look into it.
I have quite a few questions. Mike, go ahead.
I have a couple about the traffic study, and I apologize, I don't have it in front of me right now, but one of the things I noticed was that in one of the morning studies, when there was the impact on traffic between 6 and 8 in the morning, it said that 179 cars would be leaving every morning based on 323 houses, and if every family, an average household is 2.5 people, so even if you take away the kids and just leave the mom and dad, that's about 600 people. Just 179 cars leaving the subdivision in the morning seemed low to me, but can you tell me where that number comes from?
Well, I mean, yeah, the traffic engineer's not here. I'm not sure. Maybe if Keith knows more about the traffic side, he could speak. He's more of an engineer than
Yeah,
me.
for the record, Keith Lash with Lennar, and I am a registered engineer in the state of Indiana. Don't practice as much as I once did, but if you do look at the traffic study, I think I understand that the question is probably on page 9 in the use.
Sorry, I don't have it. I apologize. It was on my phone and, yes, so at the peak hour, right? Yeah, these both seemed low to me.
Yes, so our study was prepared obviously by a professional engineer and an engineering firm that specializes in traffic studies, and there's some science to it. There's a lot of I guess simple tables that they utilize, and so they identify the use, which is a residential use, which is in this case the ITE code is 310, and when it's all pretty much formulated by tables and studies throughout years and years of traffic. And that's what yields the number of vehicles entering and exiting a community of this size. It's not something they feel, necessarily a gut feel, if you will. It's simply they pull out all the traffic manuals that the state uses in the federal highway, and that's what it yields. So it's not an estimate on, per se, it's what the traffic experts suggest it would be.
I mean, I realize that usually the PUDs come first and then the roads grow to accommodate it.
Right.
And it's going to be over several years. It just seemed like not very many cars leaving.
Yeah,
And the other number that I was a little confused about was the 1% growth per year for Danville. That seemed low to me too.
The background
Unless I
growth.
was reading it wrong, I'm
No,
sorry.
that's a background growth, and I don't know, staff, did you give A&F, did staff give A&F the direction on the background growth? I wasn't involved with the scoping meeting.
We don't really have any standards that tells someone what to look for on a traffic study. It's just that we require it with a PUD. So there's not any set standards that we say, okay, this is what we want to see.
Do a scoping meeting and they specify the background growth. I wasn't sure if Danville did, but it's, obviously, they do traffic studies all the time and traffic counts, and that's what they project and feel is a reasonable. Again, that's outside growth, so the traffic study assumed that Balmoral was developed, Kensington was completed, the adjacent property to the east, so based on those two, that's what they felt the growth in the area, maybe at peak levels, keep in mind, that's at the peak hours, would be a 1% growth.
Yeah, I mean, I realize there are a lot of different ways to go in and out of both of those subdivisions, so that alleviates a lot of it, but, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Barry, do you have anything?
I have nothing, thank you.
You gonna yield to Barry?
I will yield to Barry, yes. I yield my time. I yield all of our times to Barry.
So I think one of the questions, I'll just go to the first one, is the setbacks.
Yeah.
And I know when we talked early on about this, it's really not about separation of houses, that's part of it. But the biggest thing to me, when you increase setbacks, you increase lot size. And I think the goal for us here was, or at least for myself, was to increase the lot size. Recently, we've approved a lot of PUDs that have a lot of small lots. We'd just like to see bigger lots, at least I would. And then as I look at this, it brings up a few more questions. It looks like these houses that butt up to 100 and 300 are a lot more close than what Kensington is. And that concerns me a little bit because I know we've taken a lot of comments about looking at the back of houses on 100 North and just seeing a vinyl wall. I have a lot of concern. I'm familiar with Four Oaks really well, and I think when you approach that subdivision, it gives you a total different feel. And I think having houses, line up along 100 and 300 all the way down there, I think that is going to look like an apartment complex. That concerns me a little bit. Just with how close they were, that goes into how big the lots are. And I know you've committed to 25%, some kind of features on the rear of those homes that butt up. I'm just not sure that's going to be quite enough. Like I said, I have concern because when you look at Kensington, when you drive by and you look at the back of the houses, they don't look as nice as they do on the front. And that's what everybody's going to see in that neighborhood. So when you pull in and look at the front, they look fine. And the commitment for the stone and the masonry board is great. But for me, I think we need a little bit more frontage space on those roads, or maybe even, I'd hate to revamp this, but if you look at Four Oaks and the way they did those, put the road behind and have the houses, or in front, put the houses behind the road so that they're facing. And I know this is a lot of concern. I know we've all thought about these PUDs, and I'm a fan of PUDs because I think you get a lot of architectural commitments, and that's what they're for. But I'd like to see larger lots, and I think that's where that setback came in, because if those setbacks grew and you put the same house on there, the lot's got to be bigger. That was kind of my thought. Let's see. And then the other thing I had was the street lighting. I know we talked about this. We beat street lighting up all the time. Should that be a commitment in the PUD, or should that be part of? My question is if the HOA fails who's stuck with maintaining those lights? The town is going to be stuck with that. So is that something that normally goes into the PUD, or is that part of the HOA?
We've made it a
Commitments.
practice, it'll be in their HOA, I'm sure, but I think we want clarification up front
Yeah,
as to the type of lighting that was going to be installed in these subdivisions, because if, the town had to replace them for some reason, we didn't want to be replacing, these architectural style light fixtures. So then it evolved into, okay, the developer was just going to install them and maintain them. So I think it needs to be in the PUD ordinance, so it's clear, because if it's just part of their HOA, then,
that's kind of what I'm looking for.
then
is
we
it to
don't
be part of
really
it.
have any teeth in it. It's
Yeah.
just, it would just be up to the HOA.
So that's my list of things, and that's just concerns that I have after all the ones that we've approved, and Four Oaks is a nice subdivision. And I'd say this is not gonna be any different. I'm just concerned about seeing that wall all the way down 10th Street, all the way down 300. All we're looking at is the back of homes. And I have a little bit of concern about that. That's really my biggest thing.
Yeah, well, I can make a few comments. On the setbacks, I mean, understandable that, if they're seeing a lot of homes coming in recently with the same standard, it'd be a concern. I think this would be one case, though, we would still want to continue that, given the natural area and the wooded area. Even under your cluster zone, you talk about clustering homes around unnatural areas that would be limited development, and that has a 6-foot side yard setback, as well as your R1, R2, R3, R4. So all your standards, again, other than the state, has 6 feet. So, I mean, the town may want to consider obviously changing your own zoning code, but you would still want a cluster, you'd still want to have that for a cluster project, which I would consider this PUD, more attractive because it's a cluster development. Also trying to maintain the rear of the lots. Again, we already have built-in rear features, porches, decks, covered porches, screened porches that were already provided as options. And above that, we're adding the additional 25%. More homes will have those features guaranteed. As well as you're going to have the landscape buffering, which on Kensington, I'm assuming, which Keith may know, we haven't probably put in the landscape mounding.
It's in.
Okay.
That landscaping takes 20 years to come in and do any buffering.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, the reality is on East Main Street, when you look at that subdivision, you just don't see the back of houses and a big wall. It just, to me, it's not very pleasing. And that's just me. That's my opinion. I think Four Oaks is kind of the bar for me, the way they put those houses, for PUDs anyway. And Kensington doesn't have overhangs on all 4 sides of the houses. That's an issue. And I think, I know we say we got 11-inch minimum is that all the way around, or
Correct,
just on the
yeah.
front and back?
Yeah, no, all the way around. We basically tried to bring in the best thing. We thought, first, best foot forward. We heard the comments about Kensington. We heard the comments during the Miles PUD, and that's why we held off on applying. We wanted to make sure to say, we're committed. We've been building here. Four Oaks, we took over that phase years ago, before a lot of the PUDs you see today. So, again, we're invested. We believe in this community, and, so what we're trying to bring forward is our best foot forward on architectural landscaping commitments.
What is the setback on 10th Street, from the road right-of-way to the edge of the lots?
What's
Or
the
do they
perimeter?
go over, do the property line go all the way to the edge of the road right-of-way?
No, there's a perimeter setback. The distance.
Right-of-way is 100 feet, based on the
road right-of-way is
classification.
on
Yes.
10th Street?
Yeah.
Really?
So from the center of the road to the property line is 50 feet, and then whatever their setback, then they would have a 40-foot buffer.
And then they got a 25 on the lot. So they're
Well,
talking another.
25-foot rear setback.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
But, maybe, I'm just going to just speak out here, but maybe there's a way, if you can't increase that buffer yard or turn the houses to face the road, maybe there's a way to increase the landscaping in those areas to provide additional buffering.
And there's one dead-end street here that's part of this subdivision that's totally separate from Kensington. And, well, it doesn't connect. It looks like a cul-de-sac.
This loop,
No, it's up at the
yeah, it
top.
connects to Kensington right here.
No, up at the top.
The
Oh,
top
one is
north-
just a
northeast
cul-de-sac right
corner.
there.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay, that one up there that you're talking about with the cul-de-sac on it, how do those people get down to the amenities and the rest of the subdivision?
They would have to come through the community, and there's a small parking lot. They could park there.
So there won't be a walking trail.
Is a,
There could be a walking trail, as Tony mentioned, all those blue lines that are shown on that, those squiggly lines, those are all streams. And so, and with those sometimes comes a lot of topography. So that's why we haven't shown a significant network of trails internally. We plan to evaluate it and establish some kind of connectivity. So very likely there would be a pedestrian connection from the, that cul-de-sac down around that pond somehow, perhaps. Pointer. Ideally, the ideal one would be come down here and around, but we just need to evaluate the terrain in this area, or we could come out around and back up, or, along the creek perhaps. So as there's a significant amount of waterways on this site that we're developing around, which is what's yielding us the smaller home sites, and as Tony said, the clustering of the development. And as you go south, there's just as many or more of those waterways that we're trying to preserve and develop around for good reasons.
So you'd lose trees and probably have to build bridges if there was a walking path.
Yeah, we would definitely have to do some kind of little walking pedestrian crossing. Which makes sense if we can do it without significant impacts. If those folks do want to walk to the amenities.
Any questions from this end?
Another just quick one. What kind of lighting is in the community? I mean, not the style, but is it LED or is it LED?
yeah, LED lights.
Okay.
And
thank
we
you.
would agree to put the comment in there for the council consideration if it's moved forward tonight to have the developer HOA maintain the lighting.
Thank you.
More questions down there?
No, sir.
I have one question for you, Lisa.
Okay.
Since they're asking to be annexed to, which comes before the town council, but if they didn't ask for zoning, what would that get zoned at if it got annexed?
Probably R2.
And the density on that is what?
4 units per acre.
Okay. Want to know?
I do have one comment, just for clarification. On the rear architectural items, are those in addition to the, because right now it says requires a raised deck, concrete patio, screened or covered porch on the rear elevations of all homes. So on the homes that back up to the county roads, so then those additional, there are additional features.
That's what we intend to rate. Is that how?
It's real clear.
Picked a covered porch or a screened porch, it would qualify for both of those requirements. The idea of the requirement was there was an outdoor living area on the rear of the home, and so if they chose that,
Make sure that, that the houses that back up to the roads, if they just put in a concrete patio, in my mind, that's not enough of a rear.
that requirement. Yes, agreed. Yes, agreed.
Quick question, Lisa. Oh, did you have something? I'm sorry. If it did not pass this and come back to the council, could it be zoned R1?
It could,
Okay.
yes.
Not yet. Any other questions?
Chris, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
If it went through the council, could it be rezoned R1 rather than R2? Because, I mean, it's no mistake. We all know how I felt about the Miles property. I just think bringing in too many PUDs all at once is not responsible growth for the town, so.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that our comp plan says, is we want a wide variety of housing. And like I said, I'm a fan of PUDs. I think that's pretty clear.
Okay, and just to throw this out there, I'm not advocating anything, but if it did get zoned to an R1, we have no way to require any architectural features, no landscaping, until such time we have an updated zoning ordinance. So if someone wanted to come in and zone it to R1, they could do 100% vinyl, just so everyone's clear on that.
What's the density on R1?
For an R1, it's 2, I think it's 2. I don't have the ordinance memorized. I haven't been here long enough. I think it is 2 per acre, 2 units per acre. So you're looking at,
0.4 more,
Yeah.
I mean.
But that would all have to be approved.
oh, absolutely, yeah, right. But you don't have, with the PUD, you don't have that negotiation, tool, I suppose.
So it could still be developed. It's just that we wouldn't have the controls
It's
that the
possible
town
that
has
you would
now.
not get the amenities
Correct.
that you get with a PUD. Because kind of the trade-off is that with a PUD, the idea is to retain the natural features of the land, and in lieu of that, you allow the smaller lots. It's kind of like that clustering thing. Also, then, you have the ability to get other architectural features or amenities to the site, walking trails, pool, what have you, which is what I think is so attractive to developers, is to do a PUD, because they can get, reduce the lot size and be able to provide the other features.
Is that it? No other questions? All right, this is a public hearing. I will open it up for people to come up, say your name and where you live, and say your piece. However, let me remind you, this is nothing about annexation. It's strictly a rezone to a PUD. You don't need to say anything about stormwater runoff. Not time for that. That has not been done yet. It will be. But I will tell you this, and you know what the law is. They cannot discharge more water than is currently coming off that property at today's rate. And my guess is it'll be somewhat less. But that is all due in due time. I believe that will come up when we have a site plan review. So, with that, please come up and say your piece.
Could you step to the microwave or microphone if you would like to speak?
Well, it will get addressed, but it won't be here at this meeting because we have no answers. That hasn't,
You got answers from the first phase?
no, they haven't done it yet. This is a rezone.
It's running in my front yard right now.
Well, that's current,
Oh, it's 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
but they haven't done anything, have
That's
they?
the problem. I want to know when they're going to do something.
Well, that'll come up when they come back in for a site plan review. That's when they show what they're gonna do on the first phase. They'll have all their engineering figures on runoff, and those will have been addressed by the town engineer. And if there's questions from the town engineer, those will have to be corrected before it can be approved.
Sir, if you could step up to the microphone, please.
And state your name.
Sir, if you could step up to the microphone, please.
I'm concerned about more runoff coming additionally what we're getting now.
You won't.
So just to be clear, we're not going to talk about stormwater too much, like Tommy
Right.
said, but this development goes way to the south of where it discharges on you. And once Section 2 of Kensington gets completed, that, when they capture that water, it won't be coming across 475, 450? Is it
I
450?
live on 450.
450. So it will
Here
not
it's
be coming
east.
across there, yeah. So that watershed is a totally different area. So whether this gets approved or not, that will not impact where you live right now.
Well, the culvert's going down 10th Street. Will that tie into the
Yeah,
first
but
section?
there's a huge ravine that is west of you that captures that water. So you won't be impacted by this particular development whatsoever. Now, you are presently with the field, but that's a totally different section, and that's already been addressed, how they're going to capture that water, but until they do capture all that water and store it, you're not going to see a benefit from that.
Well, since that culvert goes down so far and quits, where the house is on 10th Street and it quits, you said told me that we're in 150 feet of that red line that goes around the first section. You're responsible for the culverts for it.
Yep.
How far is it on those people's lot from the back of it to 10th Street then?
So I'm not sure where you're talking about, but I can
Well,
tell
you said
you,
you weren't gonna run the culvert clear to 10th Street.
we can't because that's county right away.
Yeah, you're gonna stop right there about 150 feet from 10th Street.
And like I
Right.
said, that's county right away. That's not our jurisdiction. And when we discussed it out in the field, we're gonna work with the county. I've already contacted John Ears. I think we've proven that the town has taken the effort to clear a stream, clear that where it's not been maintained, where it's a regulated waterway for the county. We're trying to help, but this particular development does not impact you at all. This one, not the one that's already under construction, the one they're proposing.
I just wanted to ask the question if their drainage is gonna affect the,
It is required to be less post-construction than pre-construction. It is our ordinance that the runoff rates are less post-construction. That's what we can tell you for sure. I know you haven't seen the benefits of that, but you will.
well, I'm leery about everything.
I understand completely. You had a ponding.
You've seen what I'm going through.
I've seen it for the last 5 years, and we're out there trying to help.
Okay, I thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come up, Denise.
Denise Tahara, and I should say Denise Ellsbury Tahara, and I am just asking a question about the rezoning for, I think, Area B that was noted when I was looking, I think on page 20, parcel 3 and 4. No, it was, when I
This
was
one's
looking at.
past it.
A and B.
And so when I was looking at the notes for parcel 3 and parcel 4, right now I'm curious why they've been included in that rezoning at this point. I guess I'm not aware of any purchase agreement to include those in the proposal. And so,
Are you talking about where the home is located, the 2.93 acres?
land,
Yes, it's 1 acre, or I think the house is 1 acre, the rest is 1.93 acres. And they amended their application to include that, and there is an authorization form in the file.
from, that was for the property, the 54, the parcel 1 and parcel 2, the 34 point, so something, and then the 20. That's what we were informed. So that's why I was, talking about what's included in the rezoning piece.
We do have an agreement to purchase the home. The contract is not finalized and signed, but the terms have been agreed upon, and is with Mr. Lawson, and I believe it's to be executed anytime, which is why they consented to adding this to the rezone. Okay. Okay.
Where's your dad's house at on that? It's down in it.
South. That one, that's the Myers.
That one right there? That's Mars's.
Yeah, you're further, you might have to go.
Okay. So that's included in the rezone, that property?
Yes.
It was amended after we filed without it. So again, this is a concept plan. If for some reason that agreement, I guess, isn't worked out at the final stage, we would come back in with our site plan and our plat and remove that. But it was, we were told we had authorization to move forward with the rezone on it. So we have included it. But again, if for some reason that 2.93 acre didn't work out, it could always be removed from the final plan. It'll be less density than what you're approving, so that's allowed under law. You can't add more units above the PUD, but you can reduce it if staff believes it's in substantial compliance, so.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Hearing none. I'll close the public hearing portion. Okay. So our obligation now is to either send a favorable recommendation to the town council, an unfavorable recommendation, or a recommendation with changes. So at this time, if there are no more questions from this body, I will ask for a motion.
Well, I'm sorry, I have a question again for Lisa. Am I out of order here?
No.
Okay, not yet. Okay. So we have verbal commitments for changes. So in also the rezoning of the property that we just talked about.
We
So that would
we
be-
have authorizations in the file for that property to be rezoned.
But that would be a request with a commitment, correct? Or is that?
The commitments is their PUD plus the response to the comment letter. That would all be put into the PUD as part of the PUD,
And they agreed to all those comments.
except for the setbacks.
Yeah.
So any
I believe.
favorable request we made would have to be with the commitment.
Subject
correct?
to, right,
Correct.
the staff's,
Yeah, that was my
the
question.
case
I'm sorry.
summary and the items agreed upon based on their response.
Those are currently in the PUD that's before the planning committee, except for the street lighting.
Well, that's
The only verbal commitment I can,
in there, I
think so,
believe.
too.
I think it was already in there, but yeah.
Now, would we need to add in their language as far with Ms. Sahara, their contact with her and getting that straightened out on her end?
You can make that part of your motion, absolutely. Yeah.
You what? You do? Okay. So we really don't need that.
You could just make make your motion for clarification on that acreage.
Mr. President, I move that we rezone the 141.02 acres from agricultural residential Hendricks County to a PUD with the commitments that Lennar has made in response to staff's comments, also to with landowner of smaller parcels on the southern end.
Okay, we have a motion for approval with those conditions. Do I hear a second?
Second the recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Barry?
Mr. Gerald,
No.
Mr. Harvey.
Aye.
Mr. Thompson.
Aye.
Mr. Howard,
Aye.
Mr. Van Leer.
Aye.
I vote no as well.
Okay, motion carried. That'll be the recommendation to the town council. And that comes up next week?
Yeah, I think it's 21st. Yeah, 21st, yes, that will go before them then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item C, R2C architectural style recommendations for property located at 208 East Poplar Street, Lot 3 of Carter's Edition. I've got a picture you don't have. Find it.
Wayne Lane, 291 East Main Street, Danville. We own a property at 208 South, or East Poplar Street. It's a 400, give or take, square foot house. We got ready to remodel it after the tenant moved out, and it's ate up really bad with termites, and foundation has about half of it bad.
You talking about that?
Yeah, that's it. It's a beautiful little thing. And so we were choosing, instead of fixing that, which we could do, to build a new structure that's a little bit narrow. That house is 20 foot wide, and this one's 18. And it also blends in with the house next door, which I actually own also, 220. And so we are wanting to replace the existing house with a new structure that is a two-story that is 1,100 square foot. And that gives us 550 square foot on each floor. The lot is a very small lot, so the actual buildable lot after setbacks is 550 foot, and the ordinance requires 900 foot on the first floor, which is physical impossible because there's not enough lot. And apparently in the 1800s, they didn't need as big of slots as they do today.
Dwayne, there's only street parking for those properties, correct?
Yes, but we're actually, as part of the project, we'll be putting off-street parking to both houses, actually.
Okay.
Both the big house and the little house, as we call them.